In our edition today, we're going to be covering 2024 AI updates, and there are a lot of them. And so, with that, I brought in three of my closest colleagues Sydney Morris, who is a senior talent development expert, as well as one of our marketing partners, Jamison Ducey, an AI expert and trainer, and Matthew Truelove, the technical trainer of the Cognitia training team. And figured they would be awesome to come on in here and cover their respective sections and fill in that type of information that is coming at us in waves every single day, something new. So we're going to start out with model updates. And for that, Jamison, I'd love for you to help kick us off. And we'll start with something that just came out about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. ChatGPT has memory, allowing it to remember information about you when using it. Jamison, can you talk to us about how that works?
No problem, Rich. Let's go ahead and go a little bit more in depth here. Basically, what the new memory function is doing is it's a lot like the other tools that ChatGPT has access to right now, like a Python interpreter for running data analysis, Bing search if they want to look something up, as well as docs that you might be able to upload yourself if you have any. This is basically all of these kinds of functions. The chatbot is able to do it at its own discretion, essentially. It sends all of your instructions to the language model, and then the language model basically decides, okay, this is something that I need outside research for, or this is something that I need to use Python for, something like that. So the memory function is basically the same thing, except it's combining the functionality of custom instructions, which has been a thing with ChatGPT for a bit, where you can put in your own customization, and the model will basically remember that every single time. So this is the same thing, except it's up to the model's discretion whether it remembers certain things, and it basically writes that down in a little list, and it references that list when it needs to. And it's pretty interesting. Definitely a lot more functionality here. It's cool stuff.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing that. So, okay, so the model can remember what you type or talk about uh, up to its discretion. So when I'm thinking about that, I got to think security, right? Is that something that AI can customize, or is it something that I could do? Hey, I could turn this off. How does that work?
Yeah, when it comes down to it, that list of different memories that the model makes as it understands what you want to keep and what you don't, that is definitely something that is curatable by you as well. So if you find certain things in that list that you don't exactly want it to remember, you can get rid of that. And at the same time, you can use what OpenAI is calling a temporary session, where memory is turned off. None of your prompts are actually sent to the company for further training for the model, and it's pretty much like incognito for Google Chrome.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, cool. So, and they are promising in their terms and conditions that they are not actually taking your data and what you input, right? When you do sign in for incognito mode.
Yep, definitely. And the base functionality is there for all the different types of accounts, but of course with teams and with enterprise accounts, then it's much more transparent and much more set up in terms of here's what we can do to protect your data privacy. In terms of the individual accounts, the base accounts, it's basically just temporary session.
Okay. Now, what are some quick pros? Maybe 2, 3 different pros of ChatGPT having this capability.
Yeah, for one thing, you don't have to manually put in certain things multiple times if you have to keep reminding it to do a certain thing, even in just one session. The model is able to pick that up and say, okay, this is something that you want me to keep doing, so I'll keep doing it. There are also certain individual characteristics that certain users might want to have, but might not actually realize that they want to have, and the model is able to actually remember those. And it's sort of overall a more personable experience, I would say, a little bit more amicable, because you're making more of an intuitive connection with the chatbot through this functionality.
Very neat. And we know that this feature also goes through the customized GPTs. And another aspect to this, and this is where my mind first went, and I'll actually quote one of their product leads, Joying Zhang over at OpenAI. She said, "We think the most useful assistants are those that evolve with you." And that's where I thought when I heard memory with this model. And so do you feel, Jamison, as someone who's in this world every single day, do you feel like there's an eventual customizable virtual assistant coming out of a ChatGPT model?
Definitely. I think that obviously that's one direction that they're pushing in pretty heavily for sure. And in terms of what they've been trying recently with memory and with every other little bit of functionality that they've added to the chatbot, that is most certainly what they're working towards. And I think it's interesting because the other large tech companies, obviously, they have their own models and their own chatbots, and they're all sort of trying to figure out how to make these virtual assistants in the best way possible, but in different ways. So it's really interesting to watch. And OpenAI is probably ahead of the game for a lot of different things, for sure. Mostly because they set on this path earlier than the other companies, I'd say.
Yeah, makes sense. And a lot of other companies are using OpenAI's ChatGPT as the foundational model for their own chatbots. So they're going to have a lot of data. They're going to have a lot of data, but we'll pause there and let's jump over to Bard. Excuse me, Gemini. Bard is now Gemini. Does that name transfer come with any other changes at all besides just the name change?
It's mostly a rebranding, but I think this is something that they kind of timed with their push more towards Gemini as a virtual assistant, of course, and also them releasing their mobile application for Android and for iOS, and further integrating that into their platform, right? So there's Gemini Advanced, that has basically it was Gemini Pro 1.0, which was the name of the model that interacted with Bard, right? And to me, the interesting thing about this is that they're kind of melding the concept of the interface or the chatbot with the model itself, right? So previously, the chatbot was named Bard, the model was named Gemini. Now they're both named Gemini because Google decided that distinction doesn't really matter to users and it might be a little bit confusing. So pretty interesting to see for sure. But the Gemini Advanced is basically that same model, but you can use it if you have a Google One AI premium plan that they just recently released. And so they're definitely looking to monetize this, or at least pay back a little bit more of their compute that they need from the model, since it's so expensive. But they have that, and then they have the mobile application as well. So those are the two major pushes, I'd say.
Excellent. Yeah, the mobile app is pretty neat, and the premium plan, $19.99 per month. I think it also comes with 2 terabytes of Google Drive storage.
Mhm.
Something that I saw a neat feature that it has, and myself, I'm not too well versed in cooking, but Sydney, I actually thought of you, is that it can provide recipes after seeing a photo of a dish. So maybe it'll help me, have some type of skill in the kitchen. Probably not. So the area that I do like to cover is lesson planning. I heard that Gemini's features have a wonderful lesson planning capability. What can you explain to us how that would work?
Yeah, so with that, all of that added multimodal capability with what you were just talking about, taking a picture and having the model be able to describe that and then further create more things from that. Um, with all of these updates that we're seeing with Gemini and with the other models, they're able to understand a lot more in a lot much broader context, I'd say. So when you're building things out, and this is something that I use all the time, right? When you're building things out, especially with something that you're not completely sure you have a firm grasp on conceptually, this is where specifically Gemini shines in terms of being able to explain to you in an easy fashion, in a layman's terms, what the bigger picture is in terms of what you're making, and then you can sort of pinpoint particular topics or subtopics in that and expand a little bit more on those and start getting into the jargon of your lesson.
Cool, really neat. And while we have the technical training manager with us, Matt, let me tag you on in here. If someone is looking to get into, let's say, a new technology, what Jamison just explained has to be incredibly helpful, right? So how could they go about that using Gemini?
Absolutely. I would also be curious to see if any of you try one of those recipes too, just to see how it is. But back to your question, Rich. I a lot of times when folks are learning either from the learner's perspective or the educator's perspective, there's a whole lot of you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's where lesson planning, again, either for the individual trying to learn or the person trying to facilitate or teach, you can really use this as a soundboard, generate some ideas. Plus, Gemini going through Google is connected to near real-time data, right? There's some delays and that sort of stuff, but it can stay up to date with things happening in technology. And then you formulating where you might need to focus on certain areas in your own study path and just really kind of filling in the gaps. You can use it really as a study companion too. So along with making like a learning path or a lesson plan to help you identify, hey, what do I need to study to accomplish this goal? How long do I need to do it? How much time is going to go into it? That sort of stuff. You can use it as a companion to help you as you're going and look up key terms, definitions, FAQs, that sort of stuff in real time.
So not only are you saying that it can do, it can basically vet your skills and capabilities and then provide a step-by-step course outline. I believe it actually can create simple quizzes based off of the level that you're at as well. It can then provide those resources that you can go directly to. It provides a link, right?
Yes, it
And
does.
dive right into the practicing. So incredibly, incredibly helpful. It's going to be a learning and development team's favorite tool at this rate. Thanks for that, Matt. Jamison, last section, the Copilot brand. Are we talking about GitHub? Are we talking about the Microsoft suite or probably some other copycats out there? But either way, it is everywhere. Can you share with us about the Copilot brand transitioning to the larger platform that it's at right now?
For sure. And this is probably the more confusing transition here. Initially, Copilot was just for GitHub, right? It was just GitHub's own little experiment that it was doing with large language models, and it being partnered with Microsoft and being partnered with Microsoft being partnered with OpenAI, they were able to utilize OpenAI's language models. And I think it's the model that they use is still called Codex, but GitHub Copilot is specifically for programmers, right? And those who are using GitHub, and it basically makes things a lot easier in terms of programming assistance. Now, what happened probably starting around this time last year was that Microsoft was like, hey, this is cool. We want to use this in our own platform. And so they started using Copilot and the infrastructure behind Copilot in what they called Bing Chat. And I'm sure that you guys have heard at least a little bit about Bing Chat. That was the initial name for Microsoft's chatbot, just like ChatGPT or Gemini. And what they found was that GitHub was actually integrating it a lot faster and in a lot more ways into its own platform. And they said, okay, let's try doing that with our platform. And Microsoft's platform is a little bit bigger than just GitHub, so it's taken quite a bit of time and it's taken quite a bit of rebranding. Bing Chat is no more now; it's pretty much just Copilot, but it's being rolled out currently to Windows 11 users, and they of course also have a Copilot Advanced plan as well that will give you access to newer models as they come out, as well as any kind of extra functionality between those models and Microsoft's own suite of different applications. So we'll see a lot more functionality in things like Excel, Word, everything that we use in terms of Office software. When it comes to Microsoft, we're going to see Copilot in a lot more of that stuff. So the rebranding is essentially more of Microsoft saying, hey, this is ours now, and this is what our chatbot is. And the distinction here is interesting because they are also using foundational models from OpenAI. So they're basically using GPT-4, which is what powers ChatGPT and ChatGPT Plus. and they're using it in Copilot. So to me, it started off as being like, okay, where are all these moving parts coming from? And as soon as I had a grasp on it, I thought it was pretty cool to see Microsoft working together with a bunch of other companies to sort of meld these ideas into its own platform.
A lot going on there, right? And we're seeing a lot of rebranding, and it's interesting. Microsoft, as you mentioned, put an investment in OpenAI to start, and now is taking it and running with it a little bit. Sydney, I actually have a question for you about this. As Jamison is explaining that now Gemini has a paid processor program that you can follow, and Microsoft Copilot as well. We know ChatGPT. When you're using these different tools, are you going to feel like we're getting to the streaming wars? Is it you feel like it's a similar type of battle that's going on? Like, okay, cool, I have Netflix, and then I have to get Max, and then I have to get Peacock, and now I have to get Gemini and Copilot and this and that.
Oh
What do
yeah,
you
it's
think about that?
totally a battle. And it's funny how it's all, you can kind of just see how they all follow each other, all these different companies, and they are all coming out with this very similar subscriptions and same thing. And we'll get into this topic when it's my turn. But like for LinkedIn, for example, they have different subscriptions now. So everybody, you've got one company that takes over the subscriptions in terms of all this, and then they all follow each other. So
Interesting, right? I mean, it's the
yeah.
first thing that popped in my head. Thanks for that, Sydney. And Jameson, we could see by what you're sharing with us too, it costs a lot of money to run these models, and thus that's where they're going to recover it, even especially for one of the largest companies in the world, Microsoft. Let's jump over to, thanks for all that, Jameson. Awesome information as always. Let's jump over to the industry updates. And something that we're seeing a lot of in our own training programs is, I guess, a tool called Otter. It's an automated transcription service. And Matt, before we dig into a couple of the AI, or at least recent AI update feature that it's promoting, can you tell us what Otter does essentially and why we'll probably see more and more of it?
Absolutely. So Otter AI, it's a meeting assistant from chats and virtual meetings supporting most of the major platforms out there, Zoom, so on and so forth. Especially since the pandemic, the prevalence of virtual or online meetings or some sort of hybrid form of work happening on a session similar like what we're on right now is part of day-to-day life. And they're like anything with communication, there can be easily things missed. So Otter AI allows you to summarize the meeting transcripts of what occurred. It allows you to actually even identify action items. So if we talk about like, hey, following this meeting, we need to do X, Y, and Z by this date or whatever, it can compile that information, obviously make note of attendees and some other key insights. So could be pretty helpful. Right
yeah, yes, super helpful. And I think it will actually be competing against some Copilot features. I believe some of those are added in Teams. So let's talk about an update that I think will be really impactful is something called the AI chat and channels. So after what you just explained about sharing the transcript and being able to ask it questions, what is this AI chat and channels and why is it so special?
Yeah, so chat and channels, for a lot of generative AI products that we talk about, those are tailored to an individual user. They're interfaced with a single user at a time. We don't necessarily have group input into the models to then produce any feedback. But with the Otter AI chat and channels, that is a group prompting platform for anyone that was on the meeting or even not, as long as they're given access to ask the model questions, right? To get output back, and it could be like, hey, what did we talk about? What were the action items that we were supposed to do? Hey, did Rich say when this item is due right here? And the meeting will be like, yes, no, maybe. And so some pretty cool stuff. But the key takeaway is group prompting into that particular feature.
So with that feature, then let's say that three of us are in a meeting, and let's say that you miss it hypothetically. Are you able to get the transcript, and then you're also able to get the questions that say Sydney and Jamison asked as well? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that could be definitely one huge aspect of the product for sure.
Interesting. This may or may not be a fair question to ask you, but who owns those notes? Did you, when you're going through this, I guess my thought process is, if let's say that I go join MIT's AI course that Jamison was part of, and let's say I used Otter during that, and I get all these notes and details about that. Are those notes owned by MIT, or is it like mine because I took the notes, kind of?
Oh, that's an interesting question and very, very topical too.
Mm-hmm.
The grounds of intellectual property right there.
Hmm.
I am not a legal specialist by any means. I think there's more to be determined in that area. But it definitely could vary. It definitely could depend. Are you paying for that course? Is it an open course? Is there any licensing or copywriting behind material presented, right? And
Right.
like if you're sharing particular slides and you get the transcript about what's talked about there, and then Otter records that, is that now infringing on those copyrights?
Yeah. It's kind of like just with AI in general, right? We
Yeah.
run into a lot of that gray area, and more to come. And don't worry, I think even the legal specialists don't know that answer right now. Let's jump over to a company that I think I've heard Nvidia more times in the past month or two than I've heard about any other company besides potentially OpenAI. So Nvidia, if you saw their quarter results just recently, they are up 265% in increase in total revenue year over year, which is amazing. They're surpassing Amazon and Alphabet in market capital. They make GPU chips. I believe a lot of us, especially those listening to that, are familiar that that is what they do. And those chips are used in a lot of large language models that we're familiar with. They even recently announced that they're creating a superior AI chip, the H200. Matt, sticking with you here, what makes this an AI chip? And can you share why it is so impressive?
Absolutely. So with these GPU chips, right, graphics acceleration traditionally is where NVIDIA came from, but with accelerated computing, that allowed these GPUs to essentially offload what CPUs normally had to do. So it's essentially recruiting in more workers for processing. And when I say more workers, I mean a lot more workers, right? These things are massive in size and the amount of cores that they have on the chips themselves. Uh, so for the H200, it no surprise, it's built off of the H100 and NVIDIA's Hopper architecture. It's got 141 gigabytes of memory on this thing. So just for comparison, the available consumer GPUs that you might use for like gaming and stuff in a PC, like an RTX 30, that's somewhere around 10 gigabytes, right?
Wow.
So considerably larger in memory. Some additional things that you can expect with this new set is already talking about how it's going to double Llama 2's processing power. And it's going to be available actually to a wide avenue of outlets. So they're working with HP, Dell, a bunch of the computing manufacturers. But also, you just talked about how their stock is outperforming Amazon and Alphabet. They're working with the major cloud providers too, though. So the chip is going to AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure, and it should be available here in Q2 this year.
Q2, right? And those companies are trying to make their own chips, which I think we'll talk about cost in a second here and the reason for that. But yes, these chips are in everything that we're using, seemingly, right? So this additional power, what does this mean for AI projects specifically and LLMs?
Yeah, absolutely. This additional power is going to increase, as we'll see, tokenization, right? The increase in memory size, the different media file capabilities, and we'll talk about, video uploads and looking at each of these frames. You got 120 hertz video or so, and analyzing every frame. That's 120 frames per second, right? That's a lot of images in like a 45-minute video, which you can work with to evaluate and upload and stuff like that. So just more and more context is available to be picked up.
I mean, you could see why that stock is going through the roof right now. It's not slowing down. Jamison, let me jump to you. This chip, right? Sounds incredible. Sounds awesome. Sounds beyond imagine with powerful capabilities. Is this accessible to individuals, or are we looking at this only being in certain companies' hands?
I'd say it's accessible to individuals who have a lot of money and really plan on using it to its fullest extent. And I think that's probably pretty rare nowadays. This is an enterprise chip. So the H100, we don't know how much the H200 is going to be, but the H100 sells for upwards of $40,000 right now.
40,000.
So I'd be assuming that it would be at least $40,000, and I don't have that much money to put into a workstation. I'd love to, but I got to stick with my normal commercial graphics processing units, which you can actually still put models on. It just takes a long, long time to generate anything with something like that. And you probably can't really train the larger state-of-the-art models on a single commercial GPU unless you want to spend a year maintaining that single workstation. So probably not super accessible to individuals, more so in terms of renting for the larger companies that already have models or are willing to train models. And so in most cases, it's going to be used for the big models, the ones that people are making right now.
And you know what? Thanks for sharing that. It's also the chips are so expensive to make in general, right? This isn't just a cost that they pulled out of the sky, though they can kind of, at the moment at least. But realistically, even the lithograph process and where these semiconductor facilities are held, right? All of those machines are so expensive, right? And that's what we're seeing. And for those of you keeping up with the news, Sam Altman is looking to make his own chips, and he's requesting, I think it was a couple trillion to get it going. So thanks for that, Jamison, and also Matt, keeping us up to date on the industry. Really, really good. Keep an eye on Nvidia. It's impossible not to. Let's jump over to Sydney. Sydney, career search and recruiting topics. You kind of hinted at this earlier, right? But the biggest website name in recruiting is LinkedIn. And they've previously introduced AI tools, but there's some new features. And for someone who uses this site every day, can you tell us a little bit about those tools, Sydney?
Yeah, they're slowly bringing out more products, but the recent one that came out was the sparkle emoji, or the magic button that you can find under job listings on LinkedIn, or you can use them in your chats. But clicking on it opens a chat window, and a person can type a query about a job or something pre-written, or a pre-written question will give you different options like, am I a good fit for this role, when someone is trying to search for something. And the answers are provided directly to them in very organized manner, and it gives them advice. And they can even, find information without even researching a company. So let's say a candidate is applying for a certain job and they want to learn more about the company. It'll pull all the data that they know from LinkedIn and give them a concise response back to answer any of their questions, which is amazing. And basically, the feature is just to help candidates narrow down what they're a good fit for. You can even ask it if you're a good fit for a certain role based off of your profile and your background. It's amazing, honestly, what's coming out. And the really cool thing is that it's providing tailored advice to candidates as well. So, if they do have high expectations about something, they will pull the data from the company, what their expectations are, pull the data from your own profile, merge that together, and give you a concise response to help candidates, which is amazing.
Almost like a personalized recruiter to some extent.
Yeah.
And this is powered by OpenAI.
It is, yes.
Right. And LinkedIn is a Microsoft company, right? So no surprise there. Can you talk about basically, you talked about the chatbot, how it can provide answers, and career advice as well. Have you had an opportunity to work with that tool, either of them, the chatbot more or the career advice one?
I have not. I don't. So the premium, and I wanted to get into that. So they have different categories for the premium users, and the certain premium that I currently have, I do not get that yet. It's $40 a month, so it's a little bit of a higher priced premium add-on.
Okay. All right. Again, they got to collect for the cost that they're running
do.
into, right? So there are other AI features for LinkedIn. These aren't new. Are you able to just kind of hit on briefly one or two other ones
Yeah.
that were previously released?
So the one that I actually have used and I love it, it's the profile builder. So it pulls information from the companies that you have listed under your experiences and can tailor descriptions and different profile recommendations. So like your timeline or like your under your name, like your profile headline, it'll customize that area. You can do like an actual description of summarizing all of your experiences. And then you can even do job phrases too. So, like under your jobs. I did use all of these features and it was amazing. It even gives you like 3 different options. So, that was pretty cool. And you can go through and customize and see which one you want to pick. It's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, neat features overall. I think it's going to help people land their jobs or land them in the right spot. So there's a little bit less underemployment. Let's jump to another new announcement this week. UPenn, University of Pennsylvania, they announced a undergrad in AI engineering, right? They are the first Ivy League school, actually, excuse me, the first school overall to offer AI engineering degree. Can you tell us about some of the features and aspects of this new degree?
Yes. So it is a 3-month certification program. It's going to have a lot of big data. And it's honestly, I thought a little bit on the cheaper side for a 3-month program. It's a little over $3,000. I didn't think that was too bad. But with this big jump into this new certification program, and then possibly certain schools are also doing master's programs now, but this certification that has been released just shows you what's to come when it comes, because they're such a lead in these programs. So I'm excited to see what's to come with these different schools.
Okay, great. So then on top of that certification, that there is the AI degree as well, right? And then that one will include AI algorithms, programming, and advanced robotics.
Yes.
So as they kind of build this path towards that AI degree, what do you think a university, an Ivy League like UPenn implementing an AI degree means?
Yeah, so UPenn is prestigious. We all know that. And it's the computer science and technology programs are in the top 20 in every category and in a lot of different statistics. So having one of the best technical programs make this huge jump into their undergraduate programs and these certification programs, they're the degree trendsetters. So we will definitely be seeing AI programs come about many different schools now. And I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Sydney. And with the AI program with UPenn, it means that it's not going away, right? They've been using it. They've been actually in the AI programming field for the past 10 years. And now to officially release it as an undergrad has to say something. So again, thanks a lot for that, Sydney. Let's jump on over to a couple rapid fire questions to wrap us up here, right? First off, something that is all over our LinkedIn feeds, probably Facebook feeds as well, is Sora. Sora came out, which is a text to video AI model through none other than OpenAI. Jamison, what was your first glance impression at this?
Well, my first glance was, well, gee, OpenAI's done it again, especially with Sora. For DALL-E, for GPT, all of that kind of stuff, those models have been OpenAI's huge step forward, and Sora is just another one of those. But it's image-based, and a visual processing model is essentially creating videos for you, not just images, but small batches of videos. And it's interesting because it's pretty much the same architecture that they've been using, transformer architecture, and the same training process that they've been using, but instead of just taking still images or text, they've taken videos, and they've been able to make a model process little bits of video, and the result is just stunning.
Excellent. More on that to come. Matt, with even all the updates that you and Jamison talked about on Gemini. Version 1.5 is coming out soon, really soon, actually. Right now, it's available for enterprise clients and developers. What's one highlight that we should be aware of for 1.5?
Oh my gosh, one highlight. Okay,
You can give me
rapid
two.
fire. So let me just give you a couple of use cases instead of bogging you down with the stats. It's taken in a whole lot more larger sets of memory. And they use the example of the Apollo 11 transcript, which was about 402 pages, and it was able to input that, generate context about what happened, the conversations had, all that sort of stuff. So allowed a lot of insights into that. But one really cool thing that it also did is, if you're familiar with Buster Keaton, early 20th century silent films, they input a 44-minute silent Buster Keaton film into the model. It was able to then generate, there's no audio in this, right? It was then able to generate from the frames plot points and small details about the film too, which is absolutely incredible.
Interesting. So you're going to get back on your Buster Keaton kick and watch
Yes.
all his movies.
He does. His stunts are amazing. Yeah.
They truly are. No stunt doubles there. Very interesting actor. Very cool. Finally, Sydney, a conference board survey of CHROs found 61% of them plan to invest in AI to streamline HR processes as soon as possible. What area of hiring will be most impacted by this, in your opinion?
I think it's awesome that it's going to streamline those mundane tasks that a lot of recruiters take a ton of time to do. But I think that also means that HR will have more time for meaningful work. So being able to screen more candidates quickly and just be able to focus on things that matter a little bit more in the process, because AI is taking over these mundane tasks. We still need human recruiters to be able to screen candidates and make sure they're good fits, personality fits. You still need that bond and that relationship building. And I think this happening is going to give recruiters more time to build relationships with things that matter. Yeah.
Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said. Excellent insights across the board. And these updates just keep coming and coming. And we'll come back with a few more update sessions throughout the course of this year. But Sydney, Jamison, Matthew, I'm Rich Bowers, and for Corporate Bytes, take care, everybody.